Okay, now that you've done the analysis, that's the hard part. You should have written your equation here on the last step, where again we have our y-intercept and we have our slope. Make sure you've labeled your x as fat and your calories as y, because this is going to tell us where we're going to substitute numbers in as we answer some questions. So before we answer the questions, let's talk about what the slope and the y-intercept mean. Now I've already written my answers so you don't have to watch me write them, but let me explain what's going on here. For this question, I started with going to Notebook page 35, where we went through it and filled in the information about how do we use our labels and our numbers to interpret our slope and our y-intercept. So let's talk slope first. Slope, if you remember, is a rate of change. So the things that are changing are the fat and the calories. And so we read this as when the x-axis increases by 1. So our x-axis in this case is fat. So when our fat increases by 1, then our calories, which is our y, increase by whatever our slope number is. So since my slope is 15, that's why I'm using 15. So if I go to McDonald's and I choose to have a topping put onto my ice cream that increases my fat by 1, then that means my calories are going to increase by 15. Now, the y-intercept, again, starts with fat, right? Starts with your x value, but this is saying when our x value is 0, because we're talking about that y-intercept. Whenever our x here is 0, where is our line hitting that y-axis at? So when our fat is 0, we can still expect our calories to be 125. Again, meaning if I choose a smoothie that has 0 grams of fat, I can still expect it to have 125 calories based on our analysis. Okay, now let's use our equation to find some other commonalities. The McRib just came back out. The McRib sandwich has 500 calories. That is a Y number. So that means if I go through and I think about this, I would take my 500 and I would put it in for the Y of our equation. I'm not changing the A or the B. I did a lot of math to get these guys. Leave that. I'm putting numbers in for our Y or X now. Since the 500 is a Y number, I'm putting it there, and I'm going to go through and I'm going to do the math. This is a balancing problem. Even though you might have different numbers than me, we're all still going to do the same math. We're going to start with subtracting off that y-intercept. So in my case, I'm subtracting off 125, which gives me 375, and then I carry down that 15x. Now again, you probably have a different slope than me, but we're all going to at least divide by that slope, and then come up with a final answer. Now in my case, I didn't have to do any rounding, but if you had to round, go ahead and round to the hundredths. But remember at the end, you do want to go through and put the correct label on it. Since I was predicting the fat, make sure my answer is labeled in terms of grams of fat. Now, the next menu item I picked was nuggets, right? Who doesn't like nuggies? Okay, you might, but that's okay. We're going to go through, and we're now going to tell you that I have a box of chicken McNuggets that has 20 grams of fat in it. That is now an X number. So that means I'm going to go through to my equation, and I'm going to put 20 in for my X, and I'm going to go through and basically just do the math. The math. This guy is just a calculator problem now. I put it into my calculator, and I find out that it'd be 425 calories. The best part with both of these is I could come back and look at my graph and see how I did. So let's go through and check these answers now using my graph. Let's go back to the McRib. The McRib had 500 calories in it. So if I come and I look to the calorie side and estimate where 500 is going to be, well, here's 480. This would be 510, so 500 is slightly below that. And I come across and I trace till I hit the line. And so there's the line there. I put a point there so I could see it. And then I trace downwards. And when I trace downwards here, I'm getting somewhere between 24 and 26, which is what I predicted from my equation, about 25. Now, if I switch it up and I go to the McNuggets that has 20 grams of fat in it, fat is now an X number. I go to 20 up till I hit the line. And when I hit the line and look across, I'm getting about 420, which again, I came up with 425, so I was pretty happy with that. Now, for the very last question here, it says if each chicken McNugget, so each individual chicken McNugget is about 45 calories, how many were in the box? So if I know my answer is 425 for the calories of the box, and again, you might have something different, I'm going to take that number and divide it by the 45. And so when I did that, I got about 9.44. So meaning there's somewhere between 9 and 10 nuggets. So whatever number you came up with divided by 45, again, you're going to have somewhere around this answer for your nugget analysis.